Well, welcome. We're here today with the finalists for Canada's Greenest IT for 2011. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. You've come from various and sundry places across the country, so thank you very much for that. So let's just start over here. Why is it important to look after the environment, and how can technology help you to enable that?
It's important to look after the environment to provide the resources for our future generations. I'm from the education, higher education sector, and we see the increasing demand placed on us by our up-and-coming students to be more environmentally responsible, to leave some of the resources for them when they come down the road. So that's how we got our start into looking at sustainability and green initiatives on campus.
And I understand your solution took a lot of hard copy production out of the university, out of the campus. Why was that important to address in particular?
Well, the students are moving to more of the mobile technology, so they're becoming more comfortable with their iPads, their iPhones, and they want something a little bit more, with slicker to operate. So the optimization project that we undertook set the infrastructure and gave us a platform for moving to electronic documents. We've gone from the desktop distributed print environment with a lot of inkjet printers, a lot of personal laser printers, and brought that down into network multifunction devices that give us a platform to move forward into more of an electronic document world, such as scanning to hard copy. We've made it quite student-friendly, our environment. Our devices, the Lexmark devices that we use, have a USB port on the front, for example, that allows the student to not only print their print file from their USB device, but also scan their hard copy into a PDF or a TIFF onto their USB device as well. So we've made it relatively student-friendly.
And what about students who don't have notebook computers? You know, how can they benefit from this kind of technology, or is it just a fact of life that that's what they have when they come to the campus?
There still are opportunities for students to use technology, even if they don't own their own laptop computers. We have computer labs on campus. The bigger challenge we found from the students was not so much the access to technology, but the access to being able to pay for the print on campus, such as carrying cash, for example. Students live very much in a plastic world. They like to have their debit card or something accessible. We built the infrastructure so that it's completely convenient. There's no more of the students searching around for a machine that dispenses a cash card or a declining balance card. They authenticate onto our print system through their Novell accounts. So the way we have it set up now, they have the option of charging their print expenses directly to their student account, or if they still want to purchase a prepaid account and creating a generic account to add their value onto that, those are the options they have.
And how supportive has the administration been around this initiative? Because it must have cost money to do.
We've had tremendous support from the executive right on down through the provost and the VP academic. I've got to give significant credit to them. What we did, the process we undertook, was very significant. We had to bring in an independent print consultant to validate the findings that I brought forward. And what kind of the momentum, how that started, was about 3 years ago the university developed a 5-year strategic plan. One of the key initiatives or objectives of the strategic plan was sustainability. We tied our print optimization project, directly into that key objective. That helped us gain traction and gain the support and the recognition across campus that created the desire for people to want to participate and contribute to the overall meeting the objectives of the strategic plan.
Terrific. So let's turn from a large educational institution now to a mid-market, I guess, professional services firm. And accountants are known a bit as paper pushers, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And so what have you done to change that image?
Like you said, it's a paper-heavy industry. It's lawyers, accountants, professional services. It's a traditional-based society where we have always done it this way. And the progressive accounting firms such as Lipton, we are taking a look at the old way of doing things and saying just because it's done in this old way doesn't mean that it can't be changed and it can't be done for the better. We always look to enhance our clients' services and to enhance the relationships that we have with our clients. And our clients don't want to send big stacks of envelopes full of every single tax slip they have, and they don't want to send all these files to us and go back and forth. So we try to make things better for them. We are recently using portals, so from the convenience of their office or from their house, they can now send us documents, all in digital format. Everything's going back as digital. We no longer are sending full tax returns back to them at the end of the day. We're just putting a PDF on a disk and it goes right to them, or if by their option, we'll put it onto their portal for them. And using these environmental measures is not only helping the environment, but it's also at the same time, it's enhancing our ability to serve our clients better and entice new clients and a younger client base that is now looking at their accounting firm in a different light and saying, do we want the old way or do we want somebody who's technologically advanced, such as myself?
So how did you convince, so two questions. Number one, how did you convince the management of the firm to invest in the technology to do this? Because there's a capital cost there. And secondly, how did you find people that were technologically savvy enough to actually execute this?
Yeah, well, I can speak a little bit on the business side because Brian is our IT manager. I'm one of the partners in the firm. And for us, it was really an investment that has paid back. I mean, as Brian said, it's been progressive for clients and also from our staff perspective, because our staff are one of our biggest resources as well. And so able to mobilize our workforce has really made us work more efficiently. So we found that even the money we've invested has paid back in very short order because of the amount of efficiencies we're getting in terms of what we're able to do and also to provide that much higher level of service. And we've always had that philosophy within the practice that service is always most important, and as long as it's a good idea that we support Brian in doing those things, and that's really helped us to attract and retain high quality employees and clients as well.
And it's difficult to understand it because a lot of IT professionals get that wall in front of them. How do I convince? How do I make it make sense to the owners and to the partners of how to push my projects forward? Where the partners were standing, they came to me and they said, we need a solution to a problem because we don't want to store the paper. We don't want to have large file rooms just full of slips and boxes. We need a solution to this problem. So while the benefit is to the environment, and while and it's great and it's absolutely essential, it's benefiting us as well, because we're no longer paying the costs that are associated with storing this paper that we once used to have. We're no longer worrying about, oh, did I forget to return that box to the client? What am I going to do in several years in the event of an audit or anything? We all have this in digital format. It's there, it's ready for us.
This whole issue of capital cost is a big issue, particularly in the mid-market, Doug. So what are you doing at IBM to help to enable this?
Yeah, we certainly, and these are a couple of great stories of how you truly generate value for the firm, right? It's not just for the thrill of the IT. It really is kind of what can you accomplish. And we're certainly focused, in fact, part of our objective with the partnership we've had with Infotech is how do we help you more from both from a best practices sharing perspective and also to help in other firms where it isn't so easy, where people can see the benefits, to help you with that benchmarking and proving your case. So we're certainly focused on that and understand the end goal here.
Great, but sometimes you can prove a return on investment more quickly than others. Why don't you tell us what your organization has done in BC in terms of energy savings for residential homes?
Sure, I'd be happy to. With Empower Software, and we do energy monitoring software for the home. So what that really means is essentially we're attaching a live meter read to the user. So now we actually know how much power we're consuming in real time, much in the same way if we put a speedometer on the car, and that speedometer can also add a little bit more value by telling us how our behavior changes and our mileage changes based on how we drive. So if you think about it in real time now, we have the ability to reduce people's power just by informing them of how they're using their power. And everything we've done is between 10 and 15% savings. So if you take that into consideration in terms of the value that the average consumer has, and we're not just hitting the value of the bill payer, we're actually approaching people who are the kids at schools, the non-bill payer, perhaps my wife in some cases. That 10% is a significant difference. So we've been able, within BC, on a 1 million population, it's equivalent to 50,000 cars off the road. So as you extrapolate that out and you move that into larger markets, it really becomes a very exciting figure in terms of what we can change.
And I want to give you a chance, Derek, to talk about what you've done in Manitoba, because I think it's a good example of how an investment in technology, which has one purpose, can eventually lead to other benefit, and not just for the students, but for the broader community. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, a couple of things. I think from our point of view, we're a small school division in Manitoba, and that means that every dollar that we spend on IT is $1 less that goes into classrooms and goes into teachers. And really the teachers are the ones who do the real work of our division. So it's important for us to be able to do whatever we can in IT to make our investments go further and to make them go better. And so we've done two things to really help. And from our point of view, it's ironic that we're in the Green IT competition, because we didn't set out to be green. It just kind of happened. We set out in order to make our environment easier to manage and better for us to manage and to be able to deliver more services. So what we've done is we've centralized, virtualized, and consolidated all of the servers, taken them all out of our schools, and are now running them out of a big data center at our head office. And we're able to do that because we have very good telecommunications and have our own private wide area network. So we have the bandwidth in order to be able to do that. But we see some of the savings, in June when I was wandering around to some of the schools, every principal that I talked to made a point of kind of dragging me down the hall into the computer lab or the server room and saying, look at how hot, how noisy, how difficult it is in this room for us to be working. So what we've been able to do is not only to give them that space back, but then we also give them the power savings back. We give them the heating savings back. We make their environments less noisy so that there's better emphasis on the learning. And then the second thing that we've been able to do is actually provide through our consolidation efforts, we're providing a public Wi-Fi network, and in each of our schools with grade 7 or higher in the school complement. And so we are in an unusual position in Winnipeg in our division, because we have probably the highest income earner or income area in Winnipeg, and maybe one of the lowest income areas as well. And by providing public Wi-Fi hotspots in the schools, what we're seeing is the schools are using those hotspots to set up little kiosks and whatnot to be able to extend Wi-Fi services to the community at large. And that has huge, or the potential to have huge impact as well, because they're helping people get online, we're helping them submit job applications and whatnot. And for us, we did it all not to be green or to be innovative or whatnot. We did it because we knew that every dollar that we spend on IT is one less that goes into the classroom.
Yeah, and if I could ask you a question on that, I mean, because part of, as I read your story, was you were successful in driving that investment, I guess, some years ago in the infrastructure. How were you successful in supporting that kind of forward-looking investment to do that?
We were very fortunate, I think, in two perspectives. The Manitoba government, kind of our investment in hardcore infrastructure, I call it. We have our own dark fiber wide area network that we plowed in a number of years ago, and so we've connected all of the schools and probably have the fastest educational network in Canada. We're able to do that because about 10 years ago the provincial government slammed a bunch of school divisions together, and so we inherited a mess. Quite frankly, we had incompatible technologies, we had stuff that was going on all over. And we weren't the only ones in Manitoba, but we made a decision, kind of a tactical decision, and got very strong support from our board at that time, that rather than doing what everybody else was doing, which was setting up point-to-point wireless microwave kind of systems to cobble together a network because it was cheap and it was fast, we were able to convince the board that, you know what, it makes sense for us to take on the big investment and put in our own fiber. And we have seen the return on that investment many times already. We did the business case, did all the paperwork and whatnot, and had at that time planned probably an 18 or a 19-year return on investment, which if you're in the business world, like nobody would go for that. Our board, on the other hand, had the foresight to say, you know what, we're gonna gamble a little bit on this investment, and we paid for it in probably 3 years, and I see that the stuff that we're able to do and to lever because of that Now we see those savings over and over again. And that allows us to do things like consolidate all of the services. So we rebuilt our data structure, data center, brought everything back into our main divisional offices this year with no increase in budget. And so next year I have $400,000 that I would have had to spend on servers. I don't have to spend anymore.
Great
So
story.
I'm not going to get it all back, but I'm going to get a big piece of it back, and I can use that to invest in other areas.
That's
Great. No, that's a fantastic story about, you know, innovation and how it makes you so productive now, so you can focus on, as you described, what really matters. So that's terrific.
So Shane, as editor-in-chief of IT World Canada, you hear lots of good stories.
Yeah.
Any questions for the panel?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Some people here obviously were orienting their projects as part of a sustainability initiative that their organization was involved in, and others it was really more, you know, business driven. But all of you have managed to see results in terms of green IT. I guess I'm wondering, especially for any of you that are actually kind of in the IT side of the operation, do you see any future where when you hire people that you'll be looking for, I guess, green skill sets, in the sense that, you know, today I think a lot of people hire IT staff that are really good at, you know, setting up networks or developing applications and so on. But will there be a skill set where you're looking for people that can walk into an organization and start to identify opportunities for those kinds of energy savings, or maybe better use of paper, or all those things that will deliver that kind of benefit? Just curious.
In our organization, I believe we have those people already. Part of the technical implementation team for our print optimization, they are able to go into an end user department along with the vendor who's our partner in this, and identify where there are opportunities to do print smarter, you know, such as implementing duplexing to reduce the number of paper, or the amount of paper being consumed, to look at opportunities to not print. Like, can we turn this into a business application that will eliminate the requirement to print altogether? Moving into document management systems, for example, for document routing, you know, expense statements, for example, for people that travel. It's a very paper-intensive process. So can we bring in something where we can scan that and make it a digital workflow? So we already have people with that expertise and that knowledge on staff, and definitely as we go forward, that will be a skill set that we are going to be looking for.
Thank you.
I think also with the influx of the millennials, the generation who has grown up with technology and, you know, never knew a world without the internet, and they're now part of the workforce. They're now the ideal new employee who's walking into your office, and they're going to be coming equipped with this technological knowledge, which, you know, the Gen Xers and whatever generation they called it after that, were ill-equipped.
Why?
But, but I think that all offices, all employers are now looking for innovative people who bring something to the table, people who understand that going paperless doesn't mean going paper-free, but it's going using less paper, using better means, using different solutions, and thinking outside the box. And I think that's what, if I was an employer, that's what I would be looking for personally.
Thank you.
If I could kind of comment, it's interesting to see the other, you know, the other applications in the Canada's Greenest IT, because really there's nothing that's kind of rocket science about what any of us are doing. In fact, when we were thinking about what our application is going to be, you know, we virtualized some servers and consolidated some storage. Big deal. People have been doing that for 10 or 12 years almost now. Some of the printing solutions that we're hearing, you know, enforce duplexing, reduce the number of printers that you have, go to bigger printers that are more efficient and more power friendly. These are not really all of that innovative in a sense. What they are, though, is a recognition that there are some best practices out there. And I think what's very intriguing for me is to hear the other stories, is something that comes back over and over and over again, is that best practices are not necessarily new practices. And so it's recognizing that you have to have the discipline and the endorsement and the support from your governance structure. For me, it's the Board of Trustees, to actually, you know what, have the willingness to enforce some of those laws. So I can remember a situation 5 or 6 years ago in another area that I was working in where there was an actual war when we wanted to require duplex printing. Now I'm looking at fighting the war on Pembina Trails to require not only duplex printing, but 2-up duplex printing so that I get 4 impressions out of a sheet of paper. And so that's that's kind of the next phase, but you know, the technology's been around for 15 years probably.
I think from an energy consumption standpoint, I do think there's an opportunity within all industries for people who are essentially energy auditors who go into school districts and essentially look at the expenses of what it means to leave your lights on overnight. And actually, we worked with one school district in BC, and it was amazing. As soon as they had this ability to monitor their energy in real time, they realized that somebody on the weekends was leaving a whole bunch of lights on that didn't need to be there, and of course there was an immediate ROI on that, which essentially paid for the auditor. So I do think there's that niche. There'll be a few niche roles that come up. People who essentially will study how efficient and how and are you utilizing the latest technologies? Are you essentially are you putting yours in a virtual environment, or are you going more into a digital world, and how that whole workflow goes, and then also take into account the overall power consumption that's driving everything behind it and how efficient that can be. In other words, as we roll out things like off-peak and peak consumption times, which you have in Ontario, we don't have that in BC. In other places in the States, you really see that it can be triple the cost to do business in certain things at certain times of the day, which maybe can be shifted to other times. And the only way we're going to know that is when we actually get that information to know what that difference in cost is going to be.
But I think that echoes though kind of what I was saying.
Definitely.
because
Definitely.
because if you think about that, that really goes back to the I mean it's a time-honored kind of saying in management. What gets measured gets managed.
Sure
And
enough.
so if we create a new role like an energy auditor or whatnot, then we're going to be clear that we're going to identify what the savings are going to be from that. And I think that's the key message, is that some of those savings are going to free up that ability to do additional investments. So for us, it's simple things like moving our data projectors that we're using to you know do classroom lessons, actually putting them on our converged network, so that not so much that you know they're easier and better and blah blah blah, but for me the real reason to do that is to do exactly what you're saying. How many of those stay on all weekend? I can now write a script and I can shut those down at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And the challenge that I'm going to face in Pembina Trails is I'm going to have real savings in 34 different buildings in probably 70 or 80 individual budget lines. So our challenge in IT is how do we identify what is going to be $200,000 or $300,000 of savings, and either take credit for those savings so that other people know that we're generating them, and that hey, you have this to spend because of our good efforts, or try and capture them back so that we can lever the installation and the upgrades and the technology purchases that are going to make those savings happen. That's the real challenge.
Always a challenge in IT, which is why we put on an event like this to kind of celebrate what you guys are doing. Because I mean, while great vendors like IBM have come up with solutions like this for many years, when you're actually bringing them to the street, you're implementing them, and you know you're taking advantage of not just saving money, but you're taking advantage of it by doing more with less. So,
Absolutely.
congratulations to all of you on being finalists, and good luck tonight.
Thank you.